In 2008, the United States government spent $700 billion saving banks from collapse. Not saving people, saving banks. And here's the part nobody likes to say out loud. It worked exactly as intended, because the people who ran those banks weren't drowning in debt. You were. Somewhere right now, a government official is looking at a report that says household debt just hit a new record high, and instead of alarm bells, there's a quiet, uncomfortable feeling in the room. Relief. Because a country full of people who owe money is a country full of people who show up to work tomorrow. This isn't a conspiracy video. Nobody signed a secret memo. But if you follow the math, the incentives, and the history, you'll find something stranger than any conspiracy. A system that never needed a villain because debt does the job on its own. Here's why this matters right now, in 2026, more than almost any other point in the last 50 years. Household debt in the United States just crossed $18 trillion. Credit card balances are at their highest level ever recorded, and interest rates, even after years of cuts and hikes, are still high enough that the average person carrying a balance is paying more in interest than they're saving in a year. At the same time, wages have technically gone up. Inflation has technically cooled. Every headline says things are fine. So why does it feel like everyone you know is one bad month away from falling apart? That gap between what the numbers say and what people feel, that gap is where this story lives. Let's break down how the system actually works, not the version they teach in a high school economics class, the real mechanics. A country's economy is measured in large part by something called GDP, Gross Domestic Product. It's the total value of everything bought and sold in a year. Here's the uncomfortable truth about GDP. It doesn't care how that spending happened. If you buy a car with cash you saved for 3 years, that's good for GDP. If you buy the same car with a 6-year loan you can barely afford, that's also good for GDP. Actually, it's better, because now you're paying interest too. Spending is spending. The economy doesn't ask where the money came from. So when a government wants growth, and growth is the number every election gets judged on, there are only real 2 levers. Get people to earn more, which is slow, politically difficult, and expensive, or get people to borrow more, which is fast, quiet, and someone else profits from it immediately. Guess which lever gets pulled more often. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Debt isn't just tolerated, it's engineered into the system in almost every level. Student loans are structured so that most borrowers pay for 10 to 20 years, sometimes longer than the value of the education itself. Mortgages are stretched to 30 years so that a person spends nearly 3 decades paying rent to a bank just to eventually own the thing they thought they were buying on day one. Credit is handed out to college students who have never earned a full paycheck with interest rates that would be considered predatory in almost any other context. And here's the irony. The same politicians who warn you about the dangers of national debt will, in the same breath, encourage you to build your credit score, as if debt is dangerous for a country and somehow healthy for a person. Nobody built this system in a single room with bad intentions. It emerged piece by piece because debt is profitable for the lender, convenient for the government's growth numbers, and largely invisible to the person taking it on. Until it isn't. Let's talk about the hidden math, the part that never makes it into a headline. When you take on debt, you're not just borrowing money, you're borrowing from your future income and handing a portion of it permanently to whoever issued that debt. A person with $20,000 in credit card debt at 24% interest, making only minimum payments, will pay back roughly double what they borrowed. Not because they bought twice as much, because they paid to borrow it. Now zoom out. Multiply that by hundreds of millions of people. That interest doesn't vanish. It flows somewhere, mostly upward, into the balance sheets of the institutions that issued the debt in the first place. Debt at scale becomes a wealth transfer machine. Quiet, legal, fully visible if you look, and almost invisible if you don't. And the government benefits too, in a way that rarely gets said plainly. A population busy managing debt is a population with less time, less energy, and less capital to organize, to negotiate for higher wages, or to challenge the system that put them there. Debt doesn't just cost money, it costs bandwidths. Here's the hype versus the reality. The hype says debt is a tool, use it wisely and it builds wealth. Buy the house, get the degree, leverage your way up. The reality is that this advice was true decades ago, when wages grew faster than the cost of living, and debt was a bridge to something bigger, a shorter bridge over calmer water. Today, that bridge is longer, the water is rougher, and a growing number of people are using debt not to build wealth, but to survive the month. 60% of Americans report living paycheck to paycheck. Many of them are not low income. Some are earning six figures. The hype says debt is a strategy. The reality is, for a lot of people, debt has quietly become the floor they stand on just to stay upright, not the ladder they climb. So zoom out further, because this isn't just a personal finance problem, it's a structural one. When an entire economy's growth is partially dependent on citizens continuing to borrow, that economy has an incentive problem baked into its foundation. Slower borrowing looks like a crisis on paper, even if it means people are actually getting healthier financially. That's why you'll sometimes hear economists describe falling consumer spending, even responsible debt-reducing spending, as a warning sign, as if people getting their finances in order is somehow bad news. Think about how strange that is. A country doing better one household at a time can look, statistically, like a country doing worse. That's not an accident of measurement. That's what happens when growth and debt get tangled together for long enough that you can't easily pull them apart anymore. And the risk compounds, because a population managing high debt loads is more fragile, more vulnerable to a single rate hike, a single layoff, a single medical bill. The cushion that used to exist between comfortable and collapsing has been getting thinner for years. None of this means don't ever borrow. Debt isn't evil. It's a tool, like fire, useful when contained, dangerous when it isn't, and most people were never given an honest instruction manual for using it. What's worth sitting with is this: the system was never designed to make you debt-free. It was designed to keep you solvent enough to keep participating and debted enough to keep the numbers moving. Nobody forced you to take that loan, but somebody built the world so that not taking it felt harder than taking it. So here's the question worth asking, long after this video ends. If an entire economy quietly depends on you staying a little bit in debt, who exactly is that debt really working for?